Hours before sirens pierced the silence of royal grounds, before medical teams rushed through palace corridors, a pen moved across paper that would alter the monarchy forever. Prince William has now confirmed it. King Charles signed an estate transfer mere hours before his emergency hospital visit. Coincidence or a calculated final act? What did the king know that no one else did? And why was the signature witnessed in absolute secrecy? Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The timeline alone is enough to unsettle even the most loyal royal observer. Late in the evening, long after official engagements had ended and the palace had retreated into its usual guarded quiet, the king summoned a legal advisor and two of his most trusted aides. No press office briefing, no ceremonial acknowledgement, just a closed door and a document that by dawn would take on seismic significance. Within hours of that signature drying, an emergency unfolded that sent shockwaves through the institution. The king was rushed for urgent medical attention in the early hours of the morning, leaving the nation grasping for reassurance, while insiders wrestled with a far more troubling question: why had the estate transfer been finalized that very night? Prince William's confirmation did not come with theatrics. It was measured, deliberate, almost restrained. Yet beneath that composure lay something heavier, an unspoken acknowledgement that the timing was not random. His words carried the weight of inevitability, as though he was stepping into a reality he had anticipated but hoped would remain distant for years. He did not deny the sequence of events. He did not soften it. He confirmed it plainly. The estate transfer was signed just hours before the emergency, and in that confirmation, he subtly shifted the narrative from speculation to undeniable fact. The estate itself is no ordinary holding. It is a symbol, a cornerstone of generational authority and influence, woven into the very identity of the crown. To transfer, it is not simply to pass along land, it is to reallocate power, to redefine internal hierarchies, to signal trust and future leadership. For decades, its stewardship has been viewed as a marker of strategic control within royal dynamics. That it would move hands under such circumstances only intensified the intrigue. This was not routine succession planning announced with careful choreography. This was urgency. Quiet, calculated urgency. Those present in the room that night have remained silent, bound by loyalty and discretion. Only two aides and a single legal mind witnessed the act, reinforcing the atmosphere of confidentiality that surrounded the moment. Palace insiders have since whispered that the king insisted the paperwork be expedited, that he refused delays, that he was resolute in ensuring it was completed immediately. Was he acting out of foresight? Was there knowledge, private medical insight perhaps, that shaped his determination? The palace corridors, usually alive with routine formality, reportedly felt tense and hushed, as if everyone sensed that something consequential was unfolding even if they did not yet know what. And then there was William. Observers could not ignore the subtle strain etched into his expression when he addressed the transfer publicly. It was not triumph, it was not opportunism, it was responsibility settling heavily upon his shoulders. The confirmation felt less like an announcement and more like a declaration of readiness under pressure, a quiet acknowledgement that the line between heir and active authority had blurred in a single night. Rumors continue to circulate that this was no spontaneous decision, that discussions had been ongoing behind closed doors for days, perhaps weeks. If true, then the emergency was not the catalyst, but the looming shadow that forced action. And if the king anticipated vulnerability, then the estate transfer was more than paperwork. It was preparation, but the document itself, what it contained, and who stood to gain or lose, would soon ignite a silent war within palace walls. This wasn't just land, it wasn't just inheritance. The estate King Charles transferred carries centuries of legacy power, rooted in soil, influence etched into stone. Why would a monarch move such a piece off the chessboard mere hours before collapsing? And more importantly, who did he choose as its new guardian? To understand the magnitude of that decision, you have to understand what the estate represents. It is not merely acres and architecture, it is continuity, it is leverage, it is the quiet engine that fuels influence behind the ceremonial facade of the crown. For generations, control of this estate has signaled proximity to the sovereign's inner circle, shaping not only wealth, but authority. Its revenues ripple outward, supporting initiatives, strengthening private influence, and anchoring long-term strategy. Within royal tradition, stewardship of such a holding has never been random. It has always been deliberate, layered with symbolism that insiders instantly recognize. For decades, assumptions floated comfortably within palace walls about who would one day assume control. The hierarchy seemed predictable. Lines of inheritance were quietly discussed, never publicly confirmed, but internally understood. Certain names were whispered with confidence, others dismissed without ceremony. The estate was expected to follow tradition, to reinforce balance within the family structure. And yet, in one decisive stroke of a pen, those assumptions dissolved. When word spread among senior royals that the transfer had been finalized so urgently, the shock was palpable. This was not gradual transition, this was acceleration. Some reportedly saw it as practical preparation, a wise safeguard from a monarch aware of time's fragility. Others viewed it differently. They saw it as a bold consolidation of influence around Prince William, not just as heir apparent, but as an emerging central force within the monarchy's internal architecture. The distinction matters. An heir inherits. A consolidator reshapes. Within family circles, emotions reportedly ran high. There is pride in a father entrusting his son with legacy, but there is also tension when such trust recalibrates long-standing balances. The transfer implied more than succession. It suggested prioritization. It elevated one branch of the family tree while quietly casting longer shadows over others. For those who believed their proximity to power was secure, the realization that they had been bypassed felt less like oversight and more like message. And Prince William's role shifted in that moment. No longer simply the future, he became the present custodian of something historically reserved for kings in waiting under different circumstances. The estate's control positions him, not just symbolically, but structurally, at the heart of the monarchy's financial and strategic core. It strengthens his influence, fortifies his independence, and anchors his authority in tangible assets rather than abstract titles. That shift does not go unnoticed, not by advisors, not by observers, and certainly not by family members measuring their own positions against this new reality. There is an unspoken implication in every major royal decision. What is given to one is not given to another. In this case, tradition bent, expectations fractured, and silence filled the gaps where explanation might have been. Those left out have not spoken publicly, but absence can speak louder than protest. The transfer redraws invisible lines, creating alliances and anxieties in equal measure. Because if this was about safeguarding the future, then it was also about choosing who defines that future. And that choice, made in urgency and secrecy, continues to echo far beyond the estate's boundaries. And while the public speculated about coincidence, insiders began asking a darker question. Had Charles known something was coming? What if the emergency wasn't sudden at all? What if, hours before the ambulance arrived, King Charles already understood the fragility of his condition? The signature now feels less like routine paperwork and more like a deliberate final safeguard. Was this foresight or fear? In the days leading up to that night, subtle shifts in the king's demeanor did not go entirely unnoticed. Those closest to him have quietly acknowledged that he appeared more reflective than usual, more contemplative in tone, as though measuring time differently. Conversations reportedly stretched longer, pauses lingered heavier, and familiar routines were interrupted by moments of stillness that felt almost weighted with private calculation. It was not panic, it was not visible distress, it was something quieter and perhaps more telling. Private consultations began increasing in frequency. Legal advisors were summoned under the pretense of routine estate reviews, yet the urgency beneath those meetings suggested something deeper. Files that had long been considered stable were reopened. Discussions that might once have been deferred were suddenly expedited. The king, known for deliberate pacing in matters of succession and structure, reportedly pressed for closure. He wanted unfinished matters resolved. He wanted clarity. And above all, he wanted certainty in an institution built on the illusion of permanence. One confidential meeting with legal counsel stands out. It was described not as chaotic, but as decisive. There was no grand declaration, no emotional outburst, just resolve. Those familiar with the exchange have hinted that Charles was not acting impulsively, he was acting intentionally. He asked direct questions. He reviewed implications. He insisted the estate transfer be prepared without delay. That insistence now echoes louder in hindsight. When Prince William later confirmed the timing, his composure told its own story. His words were controlled, but his posture betrayed the emotional gravity of the moment. It was not merely the confirmation of a document. It was the acknowledgement of a father who may have sensed vulnerability before anyone else allowed themselves to admit it. William carried the weight of that possibility in his tone. The idea that this was preparation, rather than coincidence, lingered between his sentences, unspoken yet undeniable. For a monarch, acknowledging fragility is not weakness, it is responsibility. If Charles understood that his health was uncertain, even temporarily, then his actions become less mysterious and more strategic. A father safeguarding legacy, a king protecting continuity. The estate transfer then transforms from speculation into foresight, yet foresight carries its own emotional cost. To act as though time may be limited is to confront realities that no sovereign, however seasoned, wishes to face. Palace aides reportedly sensed urgency beneath the surface. Schedules were adjusted with minimal explanation. Certain discussions were shielded from broader staff. There was a tightening of discretion, as if the inner circle had narrowed deliberately. Whispers circulated quietly, not of scandal, but of acceleration. Something was being secured, something was being read, and yet, in any structure of power, decisive preparation can be misinterpreted. For some within the royal orbit, the timing raised eyebrows not out of concern for health, but suspicion of intent. If Charles anticipated instability, then consolidating authority around William might be seen as prudent. But if others believed they had a stake in that authority, the transfer could feel less like protection and more like exclusion. The question lingers like a shadow. Was the king shielding the future, or was he redrawing boundaries under the cover of urgency? Because not everyone inside the palace viewed the signing as responsible preparation. Some saw it as betrayal. Behind gilded doors, voices reportedly rose. The estate transfer wasn't universally welcomed. Allegiances fractured. Long-simmering tensions reignited. Was this a father protecting the future or choosing sides in a family conflict that has simmered for years? Within the royal household, news of the transfer did not land softly. It detonated quietly. Those who had long believed in a delicate balance of influence suddenly felt that balance tilt. Shock moved through private drawing rooms and secure phone calls, not as open rebellion, but as disbelief. The timing alone felt disruptive. The secrecy amplified it. For some family members, the decision appeared less like routine succession planning and more like a bold endorsement, one that placed Prince William unmistakably at the center of power. Perception matters in a monarchy built as much on symbolism as on structure, and the perception emerging from this decision was unmistakable. William had been elevated beyond expectation. The estate, rich with financial and historical gravity, became more than an asset. It became a signal, a declaration of confidence, a consolidation of trust. Yet in a family where lineage intersects with ambition, such gestures can wound as deeply as they empower. There were those who interpreted the transfer as favoritism, an unmistakable narrowing of influence toward one branch of the family tree. Conversations reportedly turned tense, laced with questions that no one dared articulate publicly. Had traditional understandings been quietly discarded? Had certain assumptions about shared stewardship been dismantled overnight? The answers, if they existed, were locked behind discretion, but the emotional strain was undeniable. Loyalty to the crown clashed with personal expectations. Pride mingled with resentment. Subtle sidelining can be more devastating than overt exclusion. The inheritance structure, long assumed to offer space for multiple voices within the monarchy's internal framework, suddenly appeared streamlined, focused, tightened. Power began to gather, not in scattered circles, but in one increasingly defined center, and that center was William. The heir who once stood patiently in the background now found himself stepping forward, not by ceremony, but by circumstance. Yet the shift was not without cost. William was not merely absorbing assets. He was absorbing pressure. Caught between duty to his father and awareness of familial fallout, He walked a narrow path. Publicly, he maintained composure, projecting unity and stability. Privately, the weight of expectation deepened. He understood that every silent reaction within the family would echo far beyond personal feelings. The estate transfer was not simply a legal act, it was a redefinition of roles. The contrast between public facade and private turbulence became increasingly stark. To the outside world, the narrative remained focused on health updates and reassurance. But within the inner circle, dynamics shifted in real time. Advisors recalibrated loyalties, strategic conversations, adjusted tone. The monarchy, often perceived as immovable, began to subtly reposition itself around a more concentrated axis of authority. Foreshadowing lingers in these quiet rearrangements. Consolidation is rarely accidental. When power moves swiftly and decisively, it signals preparation for more than one contingency. Some insiders began to suspect that this was only the first of several structural adjustments, a measured tightening designed to stabilize leadership during uncertainty. If that is true, then the estate transfer was not a singular decision, it was the opening move in a broader strategy. And as Charles lay in hospital care, Prince William's role began evolving faster than anyone anticipated. When the news broke, Prince William did not hesitate. Calm, direct, confirming the estate transfer with deliberate clarity. But was he simply honoring transparency or signaling that a new era had quietly begun? His statement was measured, almost surgical in its precision. He did not embellish the timeline. He did not retreat behind vague reassurances. He acknowledged the signature, the proximity to the medical emergency, and the legitimacy of the transfer without flinching. In doing so, he accomplished something subtle yet powerful. He removed ambiguity, and in a monarchy sustained by carefully managed perception, removing ambiguity is an act of authority. The confirmation did not feel like a reluctant admission. It felt like ownership. There were tonal cues embedded within his delivery that did not escape seasoned observers. His voice carried steadiness, but also resolve. This was not the posture of a prince caught off guard. It was the posture of a leader stepping into a widening space. He did not appear defensive. He did not appear overwhelmed. If anything, he appeared prepared. That composure sparked conversation beyond the immediate issue of the estate itself. Was this readiness born of long-term preparation, or had the events of that night accelerated a transformation already underway? Public reaction unfolded in waves. Many praised his transparency, interpreting it as evidence of maturity and stability during a vulnerable moment for the monarchy. Others read deeper. They saw a strategic alignment between timing and messaging. By confirming the transfer swiftly, William prevented speculation from spiraling uncontrollably. He controlled the narrative before it could control him. That decisiveness reinforced an emerging image, not just of an heir apparent, but of an acting guardian of institutional continuity. Within royal governance, estates are not passive holdings. They provide leverage, financial independence, operational flexibility, and strategic influence. With this transfer, William's position strengthened in tangible ways. He now commands not only symbolic authority, but also structural weight. Decisions about patronages, initiatives, and long-term planning inevitably shift when the balance of resources shifts. Advisors understand this intimately, and in the days following his confirmation, quiet alignments reportedly began forming around him. Counselors recalibrated their language, senior aides adjusted their expectations, momentum gravitated toward the prince, yet strength displayed publicly often conceals strain privately. Appearing unshaken in the face of a father's hospitalization demands emotional discipline of the highest order. William stood before the nation as a stabilizing force, but beneath that surface lay personal uncertainty, concern for Charles, awareness of familial tensions, recognition that every word spoken would ripple through both the institution and his own bloodline. The contrast between visible composure and internal pressure defined moments of true leadership, and this was undeniably one of those moments. There is also foreshadowing embedded in how swiftly authority consolidated. When leadership begins to crystallize around a single figure during crisis, structural shifts often follow. The estate transfer, confirmed with calm assurance, may mark the first formal step in a broader recalibration. Subtle changes in delegation, strategic planning, and public presence could soon redefine the monarchy's operational core. Observers are already noting how seamlessly William has begun occupying spaces that once felt reserved. The question is no longer whether he is ready. The question is whether the institution itself is quietly preparing for a more permanent transition. Because this was never just about land, it was about control of the crown's future. An estate transfer might seem procedural, but in royal terms, it can redefine power structures overnight. With one signature, Charles may have redrawn the monarchy's internal map. What message did this send to Parliament, to the Commonwealth, to the world? To grasp the political weight of this moment, one must look beyond sentiment and into structure. This estate is not merely ancestral property, it is a financial engine and a symbolic anchor. Its revenues sustain initiatives, shape philanthropic reach, and provide a degree of independence that shields the heir from over-reliance on public funding. Control of such an asset strengthens negotiating power within the institution itself. When that control shifts, influence shifts with it. And in this case, influence has flowed decisively toward Prince William. The consolidation is unmistakable. Authority that once felt distributed now appears more concentrated. This does not mean titles have changed. It means gravity has. Advisors, courtiers, and political observers understand that resources underpin relevance. By transferring the estate when he did, Charles did more than entrust his son with land, he fortified him with leverage. The heir is no longer simply awaiting the crown. He is actively equipped to shape its future contours. Optics matter deeply in matters of succession. The monarchy survives not only on tradition, but on the perception of continuity. By executing this transfer before an unexpected medical emergency, Charles may have unintentionally projected preparedness. To Parliament, it signals foresight. To the Commonwealth, it suggests resilience. To global observers who measure stability in times of uncertainty, it reads as strategic reinforcement. The message is subtle but powerful. The institution is not vulnerable, even when its sovereign faces fragility. Within advisory circles, interpretations have leaned toward pre-transition preparation, not abdication. Not surrender, preparation, the kind that ensures operational stability if circumstances demand it. In political ecosystems, contingency planning is not pessimism, it is prudence, and yet prudence can feel provocative when enacted without broad consultation. By narrowing the circle around this decision, Charles ensured efficiency, but also intensified intrigue. Rumors of hidden clauses have only fueled that intrigue. Whispers suggest the document may contain provisions extending beyond simple transfer of ownership. Some speculate about conditional authority triggers tied to health or capacity. Others hint at governance guidelines that quietly empower William in scenarios not yet publicly acknowledged. No confirmation has surfaced, but the absence of clarity amplifies speculation. When secrecy surrounds structural change, imagination fills the void. There is also a deeply human layer beneath the political calculus. A father placing tangible trust in his son during a moment of uncertainty is not merely administrative, it is emotional. It signals confidence. It communicates readiness. It binds legacy to responsibility in a way no speech could replicate. Yet that emotional gesture reverberates outward, carrying consequences for siblings, spouses, and extended branches of the family who interpret its meaning through their own lenses. If the estate is indeed fortified with more than surface-level provisions, then its implications extend far beyond financial stewardship. It becomes a blueprint, a safeguard, perhaps even a quiet directive about the monarchy's direction in turbulent times. The possibility that something deeper lies embedded within the document keeps observers watching closely, reading between lines that have not yet been publicly drawn, because the true shock wasn't just that the estate was transferred, it was how quietly it was done. No press leak, no ceremonial announcement, no celebratory acknowledgement. No celebratory acknowledgement, just a silent signature hours before crisis. Why was such a monumental move shielded from public view? And who insisted on the secrecy? In an institution where even the smallest gesture is carefully curated, silence of this magnitude is deafening. The signing did not pass through the usual channels of stage transparency. There was no advance briefing to senior communications staff, No prepared statement waiting to be released at dawn. Instead, the circle present that evening was strikingly small: 2 aides known for unwavering discretion and a single legal advisor whose loyalty has long been unquestioned. That was it. No extended consultation, no ceremonial witnesses, just ink, paper, and an urgency that felt almost insulated from the rest of the palace machinery. Immediately after the document was finalized, non-disclosure agreements were reportedly reinforced, conversations were contained, movement was limited. It was as if an invisible boundary had been drawn around the event, sealing it off from internal gossip before it could gain momentum. For a monarchy accustomed to leaks, this level of containment is rare. It suggests intention. It suggests awareness that the decision, if prematurely exposed, might ignite reaction before it could be properly framed. The palace communication apparatus went unusually quiet in the hours that followed. No hints, no subtle signals. When the emergency hospital visit occurred, the focus shifted entirely to health and stability. The estate transfer remained buried beneath that more immediate concern. It was only when Prince William himself addressed the matter that the narrative surfaced. By then, it was not a rumor, it was confirmed fact. That sequence feels deliberate. Control the information, choose the moment, deliver it through the air. There are murmurs of internal resistance that may have fueled the secrecy, not open defiance, but hesitation. Questions raised behind closed doors about timing, optics, and potential fallout. If there were voices advising caution, they were ultimately overruled. Charles' insistence on privacy appears to have been unwavering. Those familiar with his leadership style describe him as reflective but resolute when convinced of necessity, and this decision carried the tone of finality of something that could not be postponed without consequence. That undertone of finality is perhaps the most unsettling aspect. Urgent decisions often carry emotion, but this one carried something heavier: inevitability. It felt less like a preference and more like a requirement. If Charles believed time was uncertain, then privacy was protection. Shield the act until it is complete. Avoid interference. Secure the outcome before debate can dilute it. That strategy, while effective, leaves lingering questions about what pressures were truly at play. Speculation about timing has only intensified as analysts revisit the sequence. Was the hospital emergency entirely unforeseen? Or did Charles act with knowledge that the window for decisive action might narrow unexpectedly? The proximity between signature and crisis fuels the perception that this was not coincidence, but choreography, an alignment of necessity and foresight executed with precision. And then there is the quiet rumor that something within the document extends beyond simple transfer. A clause, a condition, a provision that insiders were not prepared for. If true, it would explain the extraordinary level of discretion, because secrecy of this magnitude rarely protects something ordinary. And when whispers of an additional clause began circulating, even seasoned palace observers were stunned. Sources close to the palace hint at something more: a provision embedded within the transfer that goes beyond inheritance, a clause not publicly disclosed, a condition tied to leadership, timing, and authority. If true, Charles' final act wasn't just about land. It was about securing the monarchy's direction, no matter the cost. The whispers began quietly, almost cautiously, as if those repeating them understood the weight of what they implied. This was not a simple estate transfer wrapped in urgency. This was, according to insiders, a document layered with contingency. Language that does not merely assign ownership, but anticipates circumstance. Rumored provisions that activate under specific conditions, particularly those tied to incapacity or prolonged absence. If accurate, the estate becomes more than property. It becomes mechanism, a structural lever designed to stabilize leadership without waiting for formal declarations. Such contingency language would not be unprecedented in private agreements, but within royal dynamics, it carries seismic implications. Authority triggers tied to health or functional limitations could quietly empower Prince William to assume expanded responsibilities without public ceremony. It would allow continuity without spectacle, strength without disruption, yet it would also redefine internal balance in ways that some may not have expected or welcomed. The emotional weight of such a clause cannot be ignored. For a father to embed conditions that prepare his son for accelerated leadership is both an act of trust and an acknowledgement of vulnerability. It suggests foresight that borders on sacrifice. Charles, if these whispers hold truth, may have chosen to confront fragility not with denial, but with decisive preparation. That choice speaks of responsibility. It also speaks of acceptance, and acceptance that time, even for a king, is not infinite. Senior insiders reportedly reacted with stunned silence when fragments of this alleged provision surfaced in private discussions. The shock was not rooted in hostility but in magnitude. A clause of this nature would represent strategic brilliance to some, a masterstroke, ensuring seamless governance during uncertainty. To others, it would feel like a divisive gamble, concentrating influence in a way that narrows shared power within the family. The difference between brilliance and gamble often depends on perspective. Prince William's silence on specifics has only deepened intrigue. He confirmed the transfer, he addressed timing, but on the matter of embedded conditions, he has offered nothing, no denial, no clarification. Silence can be restraint. It can also be strategy. By refusing to elaborate, he preserves flexibility and avoids igniting further internal friction. Yet, that silence amplifies speculation, allowing the possibility of deeper provisions to linger unanswered. The long-term implications, if such a clause exists, extend far beyond immediate health concerns. It would mean that the monarchy is already structurally positioned for accelerated transition should circumstances demand it. It would shift conversations about readiness from hypothetical to practical. It would anchor William's authority not just in lineage, but in activated mandate. This places the institution at an inflection point, not an open crisis, not an overt transformation, but a subtle pivot where contingency planning merges with real-time leadership recalibration. The estate transfer, once viewed as urgent administration, now appears layered with intentional design. And design implies direction. If Charles indeed embedded a mechanism for continuity within that document, then the night of the signing was not merely preparation, it was declaration, a quiet, controlled declaration that the future must be secured regardless of uncertainty. And as the world watches Charles's recovery, one truth lingers heavier than ever: the estate transfer was signed. The hospital visit followed. The confirmation is now public. But beneath those facts lies a deeper reality. The monarchy may have quietly crossed a threshold. Was this a precaution or the first act of transition? What began as a legal formality has evolved into something far more profound. At its heart lies an emotional current that cannot be ignored. A father entrusting his son with tangible authority at a moment shadowed by uncertainty. This was not ceremonial pageantry or distant succession theory. It was immediate, personal, charged with meaning. The transfer speaks of continuity, but also of confrontation with fragility. It suggests that Charles, whether driven by foresight or necessity, chose to secure stability through decisive trust, and in doing so he may have reshaped the rhythm of royal inheritance in real time. Public confidence in Prince William has grown steadily in the wake of his calm confirmation. Many now view him not merely as the future king, but as a stabilizing force already stepping into expanded responsibility. His composure during crisis has reinforced the image of readiness. Yet readiness invites expectation. Expectation invites pressure. The admiration he receives carries a silent demand that he not falter, that he sustain strength even when personal uncertainty looms. The weight of legacy does not lift, it settles deeper. Still, questions remain unanswered. Why that night? Why those hours? The proximity between signature and emergency lingers like a puzzle piece, not fully explained. Official statements provide reassurance, but they do not erase curiosity. Timing, in royal affairs, is rarely accidental. And when coincidence aligns so precisely with consequence, speculation becomes inevitable. Was this strategic preparation born of private awareness, or a decisive move accelerated by intuition? Beyond immediate optics, a generational shift feels subtly underway. Not declared, not ceremonially endorsed, but sensed. Authority has begun to redistribute itself in quiet increments. Advisors recalibrate. Influence concentrates. The monarchy, an institution resistant to abrupt change, appears to be adjusting its internal compass. This is not abdication. It is evolution. Slow, deliberate, yet undeniably perceptible. Family dynamics, however, will not return unchanged. Trust has been publicly affirmed between father and son, but others must interpret their own positions within this new configuration. Legacy can unite. It can also divide. For some, the estate transfer signals security and foresight. For others, it may represent narrowing influence and redefined hierarchy. Those tensions may not erupt openly, but they linger beneath formal unity. At its core, this moment symbolizes preparation. Preparation for uncertainty, preparation for leadership continuity, preparation for a future that may arrive sooner than tradition once anticipated. The monarchy stands at a delicate inflection point balanced between reassurance and recalibration. If Charles returns fully to duty, the transfer will be remembered as prudent foresight. If he cannot, it may be remembered as the quiet beginning of a new chapter. And that question hangs in the air with undeniable gravity. What happens if the king cannot resume full command? What mechanisms activate? What roles expand? What responsibilities solidify? The answers may already be embedded within that document signed in silence, because in the House of Windsor, nothing is ever accidental, and the signature that night may one day be remembered not as paperwork, but as the moment the future quietly began. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.